Hi, I'm Ed Fullman, CEO of Foxtrot Code. This video is about how to use the Foxspace and how to start your first Foxpatch. So let's get started. We're on the home screen and I'm logged in. Let's go to Basics. Basics gives you a place to navigate around Foxtrot Code, and it reminds you of the different functions that you can do. We're going to focus today on the Foxspace, which we could jump off from here, or we could pick it from the left rail where it says Develop. Before we do that, let's talk about the 3 steps for making apps on Foxtrot Code. Our apps are called Foxpatches, and the 3 steps are Download, Develop, and List or Buy. What's different about Foxtrot Code is that you can begin with someone else's work as a starting point. You can choose to start from scratch if you like, but the opportunity to unlock the value of Foxtrot Code is in using the marketplace to find apps, which we call Foxpatches, download those Foxpatches into your Foxspace, and then combine them into something that is bigger and faster than you could have done on your own from scratch. So the opportunity here is to take advantage of the work that other people have done, their skills and expertise, and blend together something that is really amazing and beautiful. And that's what this process is all about. So we're going to focus today on number 2, Develop. And we're not going to start with an existing Foxpatch, but that might be something that you want to take a look at. You'll find more information about this whole process, including List or Buy, in other videos. But today, let's get started, and we're going to pick Develop right here. When you click Develop, when you're logged in, the first thing that you see is a page to get you to the Foxspace. And the reason for that is we want to keep the Foxspace very secure, and we link your account on Foxtrot Code to your account in the Foxspace. And this is how we get you there. This is how we protect the privacy of your data and your Foxpatch as it's being developed. So let's jump off from here. This is the Foxspace. As you can see, it's Ed Fullman's Foxspace, mine, and it's empty at this point because we're going to put some stuff in it. So let's get started. We'll come down here to create a new Foxpatch, and we'll name our Foxpatch. That process brought up an active canvas, and what we're going to do with this canvas is we're going to actually draw, in some respects, our data project. What we've done in Foxtrot Code is we've reduced the complexity of creating a data project into 3 very functional visual objects that you can use to draw a Foxpatch. So those 3 big objects are the 3 R's: reducing data, refactoring it, and reformatting it. So let's begin by dragging a reducer onto the canvas. What reducers do is 2 things. One is that they enable you to access or lock into a data source, and you can do that by selecting an existing index on Foxtrot Code that we maintain for our users, like the Twitter index, which we're going to use today. Or you have other alternatives. You can grab data live from sites like Socrata and pump them directly into your Foxpatch. You can also upload data that you own and then load it into your Foxpatch as well with a reducer. The first reducer on the page is the one that connects to the data. And this one is no different. We're going to actually connect now to an existing index to get started. And we're going to pick the Twitter index. Now, our Twitter index is mainly made up of geocoded tweets and tweets that have a location profile that gets turned into a geocode. And those are useful for correlating against other data sets that also have GPS or geocode information on them. We keep about 300 million events on hand. They're coming in at about 50 tweets per second, and they're going off the back end into cold storage at about the same rate. So that's how we keep it fresh and maintained with the latest. So we're going to go ahead with our Twitter index, click next. Now we're just going to name this so we know what it is. We're just going to call this all of Twitter because that's what it is at this point. And you see that we've placed an object on the canvas. Now the whole point of building your data project and working with big data is reducing it down into something useful. So we're going to reduce it again. And this time we're going to reduce it by date and time because we don't want all of Twitter. We just want a part of it that we want to analyze. So the thing about Foxtrot code is that the objects on the canvas get connected. One has a source of another. You can only really have one source for a knot with some minor exceptions to that rule. In this case, we're going to click all of Twitter as our source. And we're going to click next. And what we're going to do is we're going to reduce all of Twitter by some time factor. And let's just take the last 60 minutes. And we'll call this time. Now you'll notice some other things on the canvas, mainly this wire between the two objects. And now we'll get into a little bit of what we call these things. Reducers, refactors, and reformats are what we call knots. And they're on a string, which is this connector. The string is like a data pipe. And what's being shown here is actually data emanating from this Twitter index being piped through a process where it's reduced so that only the last 60 minutes is pulled through. And then at this point, we don't have all of Twitter anymore. We have just 60 minutes worth. So let's pull another reducer onto the page. And this time, let's constrain it some more because 60 minutes of Twitter data is still a tremendous amount of data. We want to get to something specific. Our goal is to create an analysis of tweets about President Obama. So let's reduce this. We could do it by field, which is the text field, for example, or the hashtag field, but let's just do all across the entire tweet, which is reduced by constraint. And what we want to do is we want to attach this next object to the end of the string, which would be time. And now we're going to enter in some constraints. Now these could be very complex. You can read more about that on Splunk.com in the reference section. But what we want to do is something similar to what you would do on Google. We're going to put in the word Obama. That's all we're going to do. And it's going to basically thin down everything coming from Twitter over the last 60 minutes to those tweets that have the word Obama in them. And we'll just call this Obama so we know what we're looking at. Okay, now we have the beginnings of a Foxpatch. Data has been reduced significantly from hundreds of millions of rows down to a few thousand. And now what we're going to do is something basic around refactoring. Refactoring is the workhorse of Foxtrot code. And what you do in refactoring is all your statistical analysis, all your machine learning, field normalization, text manipulation, clustering, transactional analysis, everything that you can do in Splunk, most of it's going to be done through a refactor knot. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do something real simple. We're just going to thin down the number of fields being passed because we want to create a crossfilter, and the first step for that is reducing the number of fields. So let's select fields, and we want to grab the end of the string so far, so the last knot, that's the Obama reduce. And now what's going to happen is Foxtrot code's going to load all the fields available in this process so far. If we would have done this kind of field selection process upstream a little bit, we might see something different. But this is all the fields in Twitter, and that's what we're going to try to thin down a little bit. So we're going to grab a text field because that's where the tweet actually is kept. And then we're going to grab the metadata fields that have counts in them, numeric information, because that's what you use in the next step for the visualization we call a crossfilter. So we're going to grab all these count fields, and there's, I think, 5 or so in Twitter. We're going to click next, call this fields, call it whatever we want, but we'll use fields. And now we have a rudimentary Foxpatch. It takes data from Twitter, thins it down by the last 60 minutes, takes out all the tweets that were related to Obama in the last 60 minutes, which there will be a lot of, and then cuts down the number of fields. And now we're going to use the last kind of knot, which is called a reformatter. And a reformatter is how you run a Foxpatch. It's also the way that you get to view and visualize or output the data. The way to think about reformatters is that they're kind of the end of the process. From here, we'll actually run a query, we'll run a Splunk search, and whatever reformat you choose will choose the end of the query. So I could place it here against the fields, or I could place it here against Obama, and different things would come back. If we connect it to the fields, which we're going to do, we'll only get back the fields that we wanted to use for the crossfilter. So let's do that connection. And this is a special version of the fields command. It's going to ask us to select a couple of numeric fields that we can use with the crossfilter. And we're going to take these two. Okay? And we're going to call this visual. So this is a very rudimentary but basic Foxpatch, and we're ready to run it because we have a reformatter in place. And the way to run the Foxpatch, to actually get it to pull data through and do what we've been talking about, is to click on the visual, or the reformat knot. And what you're presented with is a new tab and this prominent Run Search button. When we click this Run Search button, what's going to happen is that the Foxpatch is going to be translated into a Splunk command, a Splunk query. And we're going to actually inject it into a cloud-based Splunk instance, run it real quick, pull back the results, and display it here in a visualization interface that we call the crossfilter. So let's hit that run button. So this is the crossfilter visualization interface, and what you're looking at here is the data being displayed in multiple views. So we're seeing it by the hour, by the follower count, by the user status. And what we can do is use these handles to move around in the data, to select different information. And what's happening here is the data is changing in the data table based on what we're doing up here with these controls. How you use this information is to tune up your Foxpatch. So using this, we might say that we want user counts that are primarily on the low end for follower counts, and if we were looking at this one, maybe we would say we are looking for high follower counts because we were interested in those kind of followers. So using this information, we'd go back to our Foxpatch and we could tune up possibly the constraint, add to it. We could change the time. We could look at different fields and add in other kinds of refactors and reducers. Well, that's it for our first video, and I want to thank you for your attention and your time. I'll see you out there.